Did you know George Washington never wanted his image to be on American coins? We're all familiar with the American quarter, and certainly familiar with the image on the quarter. That's George Washington. But he never intended for this to be. The image that was on our coinage for well over 100 years was this. This is liberty. Of course, we're all familiar with the Statue of Liberty, but why was liberty such a big deal? All the coins throughout the 1800s had liberty on the coins. Never a politician, never an individual, just liberty. This video that we're doing is an essay on the relationship of liberty throughout the history of our American coins. My name is Brian McCaw. I'm speaking to you from the John Kasich collection at the Westerville Public Library in Westerville, Ohio. In the last chapter of The Dollar Meltdown, Charles Goyette makes a fascinating observation about what has been depicted on American coins over the years. America's earliest coins portrayed liberty. Not rulers and politicians, just liberty. A symbolic representation of the country's highest ideal. In the beginning, Americans had an affair of the heart with liberty. She was their muse, and they were aflame in their love for her. They talked about her everywhere, in their churches and taverns and town squares. But she hasn't appeared on our circulation coinage for more than 60 years, not since the beautiful Walking Liberty $50. It represented liberty striding gracefully into the rising sun of the future, arm extended in peace, carrying a bounty of riches. It was a beautiful representation, well chosen because abundance accompanies liberty wherever she goes. Our devotion to her would be no less if it were not true, but it is one of her secrets. Liberty creates prosperity. Today's coinage, looking each year more like subway tokens, celebrates the state. Just as words replace deeds and paper substitutes for gold, politicians have displaced ideals. The American state, which was created to serve liberty, is now commemorated instead. In this context, what is liberty? Man's history is punctuated by conflict between liberty and authority, or worse, between liberty and tyranny. This was the point of the Revolutionary War. They revolted against the tyranny of England. The aim of patriots was to set the limits to the power which the ruler should be suffered to exercise over the community. This limitation was what they meant by liberty. This is also the reason why Washington never wanted his image to be on the coins. Throughout the history of man, one of the things that rulers did to put people under tyranny was to have their image on the coins. We see this going all the way back for thousands of years. In fact, it even comes up in the Bible. In Matthew 22, verse 19, it says, "Show me the tax money." So they brought him a denarius. And he said to them, "Whose image and inscription is this?" And they said to him, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." Caesar's image was what was on the coins. Just as personal property belonged to the state, or more specifically to the king throughout history, so too was the coins. The king had the privilege to allow people to own property, or to have coins, to have money, but it was always his image that was behind it. When our new nation was enacted, one of the things that they wanted to avoid, stridently avoid, was the notion that somehow an individual gave people the right to own property, or people the right to own coins, to own their own wealth. Washington's image was on a number of coins that were enacted by the states before the Continental Congress came out with their own currency. But when they finally came to the point where they decided they were going to mint their own coins in 1787, they decided that they were not going to put his image on the coins, and he didn't want it. He was very express in this, and they determined to come up with a coin that was called the Fugio cent. Here's an image of the Fugio cent. But it's called the Fugio cent, or in some circles it's called the Franklin cent, because he was very involved in the design of this coin. Benjamin Franklin. Fugio in Italian means time flies. And right on the front of the coin there's a statement that says, "Mind your business." Seems kind of ironic today, doesn't it? On the reverse of the coin there's 13 links of a chain that encircle the back of the coin, and in the center of the coin the words either United States or States United, depending on which mint the coin came out of, is printed. And right in the center of it, it says, "We are one." So they've got the 13 states represented in the chain, but in the middle it's "We are one. We are one nation." This notion that we were to mind our own business was a new thing. Again, the monarchy had given the states the right to exist. They'd given the states the right to have their own currency, to do whatever they were going to do, but it all came from the king in England. In fact, the notion of no taxation without representation was one of the sticking points during the Revolution. They were allowed to make money, they were allowed to live and be a colony, but they had no representation in Parliament. They had to pay their taxes, but they couldn't go back to Parliament and say what they wanted for their own governance. This was one of the first things that came up that started the Revolutionary War. In the next segments, we're going to explore what the purpose of putting liberty on the coins was. We're going to see why that was the image that they picked.